welcome to another episode of the Adult Brain Injury Group podcast. Sponsored today again, huge thanks to Abilities Enabled. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Karl and Ashley. Welcome to the podcast. First and foremost, Karl, I'd like to start with your story and why you're here today.
Well, it's actually, strangely enough, it's 6 years to the day since the accident, and back in the 20th of May 2020, it was a day in COVID. We was both working from home in COVID. We'd finished for the day and was wedding prepping, I would say, like, 'cause we'd been engaged and decided that, let's say, we'll do a bit of wedding planning, what we'd venues and other bits and bobs that we was kind of looking at. And I decided that I'd forgot some stuff from the shop in the morning and decided to go up to the shop, and that's pretty much all I remember. I'd been hit by a speeding driver. Bit more of the story was because it was on at the top of our street. People who knew of me on the street had come to Ashley to tell them I'd been struck by this vehicle, which then you came up to see it. And yeah, I don't remember much of it. You remember a lot more of that part than I do. And yeah, I just then woke up in hospital, covered, like, both my arms were like being stuck together with scaffolding or whatever it was, in regards to and being told that I'd been hit by a car, like no memory of it. And yeah, I had about 3 or 4 weeks in hospital, and before, like, say, coming home, and that's where the kind of real problem started. We just weren't prepared for the kind of rehab side of it, because we was in the COVID lockdown. It was, in terms of physio and the kind of, they did great at the end, the hospital, in putting me back together. But I think coming out of hospital and not kind of having that support, you became more or less a carer for me, didn't you? And yeah, from things of just having a normal bed to lie in, I couldn't lie flat on my back because of the injuries. And I've lost my train of thought. So yeah, the injuries just became horrendous, and that's when you kind of stepped in with the kind of legal side of it, where then some more professional kind of help came in, so we could get proper beds and proper help, really, in terms of the recovery side. Because I know I'd had the brain injury, but because of the orthopedic elements of my injuries and the pain meds, it was a good while before I really knew how affected I was with the brain injury. It was because you're so highly medicated. Obviously you're sleeping a lot, you're not doing your day-to-day activities, and then once things did kind of settle down to such, because it was quite a rapid, like, I was having operations like quite regularly to kind of put my arms back together or get them to a certain situation where you could manage with them. But that's kind of like your focus recovery-wise. It's then once you start then thinking about day-to-day activities, and I went through quite a whirlwind of things. It was, certain things started to come to light, like word finding was a struggle. I'd be talking and struggling to find a word. Sleep became a huge problem. I'd struggle sleeping throughout the night. I'd, like I say again, forgetfulness, mood would change. Busy environments would trigger me. So it was kind of a snowballing period of things started to kind of come to light that this needs looking at more.
So, a few things. What was life like before? Obviously, you've mentioned what kind of employment did you hold?
It was quite a professional environment. I was an associate director for a company that sold businesses. So it's quite a fast-paced office environment. I was in charge of quite a number of telesales people who would generate leads, and I would then obviously put them in for a visit. And throughout, like I said, back in March of 2020, when COVID really struck and everything went into lockdown, I was kind of put in to run that department or keep it ticking over until things would return back to normal. So I had quite a promising career there, and I think naive in myself really was, I was so determined. I think not only for the wedding after the accident, I was kind of determined to get back to the old me, and I would think, right, okay, the bones will heal, and like I said, but it was the brain injury that became the kind of real thing. But it took so long for me to realise that the old me was not the person in the mirror kind of thing anymore. I was different, but I went through quite a lot before then.
Actually, if I can come to you, if you don't mind. Obviously, Karl, thank you so much for sharing that part of the story. I think one thing I really want to focus on is the relationship side. Obviously, your relationship, other relationships. How did you feel when you first heard the term brain injury, or Karl's got a brain injury? And how did that make you
feel? Scared. And I think it's the you hear of brain injury and think that's it, like what is life going to be kind of after that. And then I suppose it's about adjusting to it as a family, isn't it? And yeah, probably terrified is the best way I could explain how I felt because when we got to hospital and the consultant came out to speak to me, and the listing obviously all these physical injuries, and then the only thing that I heard was bleed on the brain, and that was what I completely focused on. Then it's kind of like what is that going to be when obviously he comes around and things like that.
Yeah, I think and from a support perspective, one of the things we hear commonly is when these kind of things happen, it's what support is available. How well informed were you around what support is available, what organisations are available, and what your routes to I suppose, before even thinking about getting home, how early was the support? You mentioned obviously clinical support through the NHS, but how about other sorts of support, and how readily available and instant were they, or not instant sort of thing?
So you went down for surgery the night of the accident and was in surgery for 11 hours, and then obviously we had 2 kids at home, young teens at the time, and then it was COVID. I couldn't access the hospital, you couldn't go, so it was FaceTime and that was it. But Karl was on that many meds that he'd fall asleep mid-conversation, say he'd doze off, so the kids couldn't see him. So then you were probably in for about three weeks, would say. So you're kind of just managing the home situation, not knowing obviously what is coming home. And then it was, okay, so you got a downstairs toilet, yeah, you got someone living at home, yeah. As a partner and the kids, we wanted him home. That was it. That was priority, to get him home. But not knowing what was going to happen when he got home I was completely naive to the situation.
Yeah. I think we, not for you guys, but we forget about how difficult COVID was to manage as a thing on its own, right? You know, and then obviously this happens, and it's what like just you can't think.
It was like the ripple effect. We hear that, don't we? The ripple effect of the accident, and like I'm centre of it, but the actual people affected, like say family, but close family, even outside the main household, had to kind of help as well.
But then you're limited as to who you can have.
Of course, and of course, helping you, of course.
Before the legal side was involved, it was pretty non-existent in terms of the help.
Yeah, so I think that was the fortunate side for me. Basically, my background was legal.
Okay.
So I knew, I dealt with personal injury claims, I had 19 years experience of it, and I knew what needed to be put in place. So I couldn't help Karl actually physically because he was in hospital, so I knew that it was about getting that in place.
I think that's a really good point to just pause on for a moment when we're talking about support and access to support. Obviously, you know from your career, but we know because of the brain injury group, but we know that obviously funding, rehabilitation, interim payments, access to, many of our listeners won't understand that part of it, but in some respects that makes it so much easier when you know the process. I think maybe touch on how it would have been if you hadn't have known that process, because obviously it was already a hugely scary experience, you know, but having some understanding of what support's available, how you access support. A lot of our listeners won't understand how to do that, and why organisations like this one or others, Headway, for instance, and other organisations are so important. And I think the education piece around making sure that family members, I mean, it's kind of the unwritten thing, isn't it? But if you don't need a service, you don't know it exists. So I think it's really so important that people understand the process or know that this is the way or how you access things. So how soon was the legal side involved in Karl's recovery? What was the sort of from accident to then? Was it post coming home or was it?
I think I was already on, probably so, because I knew like I couldn't do anything else. So my job was to basically deal with that aspect of it. So I knew working at a firm of solicitors who I needed to get in contact with. I was fortunate that a partner that worked at the firm put me in contact with a really good firm of solicitors, and it was literally from the get-go. That's why I think you were so fortunate that the team that you had around you was just amazing.
Yeah, but I think you just don't know the support. If you're not involved in that, it's difficult. You don't know which support to use.
I think that's why things like this are really important, because there'll be people listening to this and people watching, hopefully, watching as well as listening, that starts to, because I think the education piece is so important. A lot of the work we do in rehab centres is explaining what support is out there, who to go, what accredited services they are, because without that knowledge, it's so, you're in the dark, aren't you, to how you navigate life. Navigating life is already difficult without any of, without this scary situation. So thanks, Ashley, for that. So I want to just talk about the discharge process, if I may. So, you've already explained it, just wanting Karl home, which I can appreciate. I suppose it doesn't end there, does it? That discharge, just because Karl's home, it's the constant, I assume, back and forth for appointments again during COVID, which was a hugely frustrating time for everybody, really. But I suppose hospital visits. Just talk me through that sort of discharge to, from that point then, and how difficult that was, especially with a family to look after and navigate. I'm assuming school.
Do you want me? Well, yeah, they were homeschooling. I was still working from home at the time. So obviously you came home, didn't you? That was it. You had no use of both arms coming home. So I knew that care and responsibilities, as soon as you walked through the door, that was it. So administering medication, self-care, everything that you could imagine was. So obviously you're trying to then manage the kids, trying not to worry the kids, and we had some contact from kind of rehab NHS wise, didn't we? But I think because your physical injuries were so severe, you were limited as to what you could actually do in regards to any rehabilitation. So it was kind of tick the box of, you know, yeah, okay, like I said, downstairs toilet, you've got someone at home, what are the stairs like at home, you've got someone there, but you were on that many meds, it was, your sleep was all over
But that's
the
where
place.
the brain injury element was like kind of put to one side, and it was the physical element which was forefront.
Yeah.
But I think the physical kind of physiotherapy was trying to be done online, and we didn't have we had laptops and stuff, but it was kind of being done on a mobile phone, like stood on a table, and it wasn't great. But like I say, if it weren't for the NHS putting me back together and helping on that day, then I'd be in a lot worse of a state. But I think that after the discharge was kind of non-existent because of the time, and a lot fell on your shoulder.
No one can prepare you for that. You go from being in this relationship and everyone was in their own bubble, say, come COVID, and then everything just at the blink of an eye changed because I always said it at that point, you're then not someone's partner, you their carer, and that's what it is. And your priority is to get them home, but then on the flip side of that, it's then what changes as a result of then someone coming home and you caring for them. And that is, I think, what is not out there. It's someone to sit down and say to you, look, this is what this is going to require.
Yeah.
And that's when, like I say, the case managers and people kind of come in to kind of take some of that straight away from Ashley and get me the kind of right direct help from every aspect, from the brain the injury side to the physical side.
So I guess we're talking recovery here, and we're talking about sort of separate the relationship for a moment. I want to come back to that because there's a couple of questions there. But in terms of you mentioned there that the physical injuries become the forefront because that's about movement and you know, getting you back to a point where you can engage with rehabilitation. But obviously still got this brain injury that's, you know, when did that sort of start to take more of a sort of forefront? Because obviously this is the difficulty, isn't it? With multiple injuries, it's kind of like the immediate fix, which is we need to fix this and this, and then it's rehabilitation starts in so many other ways, doesn't it? And continues for such a long time.
I think it had been a good few months after, because I did have to go through quite a number of, even though I was discharged, I then had to go through other operations thereafter. So that obviously kept me on these strong pain medication, which kind of you're a bit of a zombie as such in and out of sleep and not really doing much. I think it was once I started to become more physical abled as such, and yeah, it was like, I'd say about 3-4 months after the accident that I started really to kind of see changes in myself. Like I say, it was the word finding was one of them. Memory certainly was another, where I'd go into an appointment to see a specialist and come out and not really remember the conversation as such. It was like trying to retain that information was non-existent. So it was, but I was quite a determined person. I was naive, I'd say as well, with what had happened to me and the kind of symptoms. I was like, I'll still be my old self. I'll still get to where I was. I'll be back to work, and like I said, we were still focused. I was still determined about the wedding not being changed and not having the date changed there. So it was kind of, it'll all be all right. It'll come good, but it's it takes a long time then for you to then say, right, okay. And I struggled mentally. I remember was probably 2 years in from the accident, and I'd had all the surgery, all these other things that was going on with, let's say, the brain injury, and I wasn't going out as much. I'd lost the kind of confidence, and I was starting to drink in the house, hiding it from Ashley. Had no idea, and I was starting spiraling mentally to kind of into a dark place. And I don't know what kind of sixth sense you had. I'd been searching on the iPad for ways to kind of end your life, and let's say I hadn't gone through with anything, but you then found what I'd been searching, and it was kind of a bit of a breakdown for me emotionally, and it then went on to kind of how we get the right help, and other people came in, professionals, and I then started to realise that, okay, I need to let go of that person who I used to be, and become something kind of new. And yeah, it took the darkest of moments to then realise that, right, okay, I may not be the same person, but I've still got quite a bit to offer. And yeah, and that's when, like I say, things started to change for me a bit, and yeah, started to get out into maybe the outdoors, walking, but then I needed an hobby. And so my hobbies before the accident were far more physical. I used to love mountain biking, but the downhill mountain biking, and that used to be my kind of release. If I wouldn't think about anything else, and it could be a way of like just getting away from everything. But I couldn't risk doing that anymore with the injuries I've got, and that's when, like I say, someone mentioned to me to get like fishing, and get out and find a new hobby, and that was that.
I want to come back to the fishing, because you know I'm very passionate about this as a once teen, which none of our listeners will know about, by the way, and I'm sure they can't wait to talk about fishing, and we must. But going back to the series, Ashley, obviously, you know, that mood change and everything, I wondered how that, well, not just that incident, but I wonder, how did your mood change? Obviously, it's a very obvious question, but who did you have to talk to? And obviously, again, this is COVID, so you're not able to invite people around to the house, and or you know, it's obviously the rules were changing. But what got you through this? Because
probably my dad. I think, like, I've got a really good relationship with my dad. We have got a really good relationship with my dad and stepmom. So I think for them, and initially, I don't know what it was. I just knew something wasn't right with him. And like I said, I don't know what made me search to see what it was. But then I knew he'd kind of hit, well, the lowest of the low. It was rock bottom. And then it was the team that we had around. It was like a cry for help. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, as a partner, like, what do you do in that situation? And look at the team. Well, they just came straight in, and yeah, it was kind of all systems go with that. But
I think that's the fortunate part about it.
I think you always say the worst thing is, it's like, say, dark mornings, for example. In the summer, it's different. If you're getting up, your sleep is terrible. So if you were to get up on a summer morning, your mood throughout the summer is better. Yeah. But you would always notice a dip come the winter. It's like the dark, everything's miserable. Like, what, you know, that kind of. And I think that's where you then kind of dipped, because it was after the New Year, just before. Like Easter, it was, yeah.
And I think it's so important for you to have an outlet, as well as someone who would have been scared, all of the usual things. But yeah, it's really important you had someone.
Yeah, I just think you don't deal with that as a partner, because the priority is the person. It always is. But then there's, again, it's like, what is their outlet for the partners of some, or the kids? You know, the kids went through a lot. They were at an age where they grew up at, you know, a heck of a lot. They witnessed so much. You know, they witnessed you at a really bad time. Everyone trying to deal with it and navigate the situation. And you know, yeah, again, whatever the case manager said to us, you won't notice it now because it's forefront, but come months and it's the ripple effect, and that has stuck with us forever because it's how it affects everything.
I think I think we look at us. I was kind of fortunate that we had a good team outside of the family that was kind of looking after me because of the litigation side. But I always think that outside of my situation, someone who's not got that litigation side and has had a fall or an injury, how their families can actually cope with not knowing what's out there. We was then told that this is available, and I just think it's not.
Well, I think that whole advocacy side of it, again, taking your career experience away, you know, having someone to have, whether that be a solicitor or a case manager or whomever it may be, partner becomes a carer, you know, it's super important. And there are obviously individuals who don't even have the, you know, the partner or the family connections to go through. Look, I think you two are amazing, by the way. And I just want to touch on that point. How obviously you must have been really strong as a couple before of this. And how often do you? Obviously, we're having a great chat about it today, of course we are. But how often do you two like actually sit down and talk like this openly about? I mean, because obviously it's a harrowing thing. Do you ever take a step back and think how far you've come and what how strong you two are as a couple?
It's like today, and because it is like 6 years to the day that the accident happened.
That was not intentional at all. We've smashed it, haven't we? That is brilliant.
So it's like it was about 6 o'clock in the evening, or something happened. So it's to like days like this that you kind of reflect. It's kind of a day of it's approaching. It never go away from your mind, but it's like it does get us talking about it and like where we've come from over the 6 years to where we was. Right, okay, that used to be me before the accident. This is me now. But even yourself, like you've decided to change careers because of the accident.
Yeah. So I did 19 years legal, and then after the accident last year, I came out of work and started uni to be an OT. So for me, because I saw obviously, but not we weren't just the OTs. I mean the team, but occupational therapists as a whole, like what they did for you and us as a family. I was like, this is it. So if I can offer that to somebody else,
the lived experience.
Well, I think that's that. You know that and you had a conversation before, didn't we? You know, for me, not just this podcast, but it's all about talking and the lived experience for us as an organisation is huge. We have several people with lived experience, you know, and that's so vital because the more we talk and the more education out there and the more articles and the more navigation information pieces that we have, like that's only going to benefit. And again, you know, hopefully we're highlighting today and not just this episode but other episodes about services and about what next, what you should ask, the do's and don'ts. Like I think it's so important to highlight. And again, if it goes on to, you know, the fact that you've got lived experience and you know, will go on to become an OT like that, you know, will benefit so many families and so many individuals. Hopefully not. It definitely is going to be. Okay, so Karl, I want to talk about, you know, we've moved on. Of course, we just talked about your wonderful new career blossoming as well. But I want to talk about that hobby. The great outdoors. Today in Manchester's kind of overcast, but we're getting through this May tricky weather we've got. But I want to talk about, you know, the new Karl and not so much goal setting, but okay, what's next? And you've mentioned your hobby before, fishing. When was that sort of first discussed about, you know, okay, can't go mountain biking anymore, or it's probably not wise to do that just at this moment in time? But
it was mentioned before I realised, because like I said, I mentioned I was stubborn. I was like, I'll be back on a bike, I'll be back to my like old self. So it was mentioned back then, and I shrugged it off as to say, no, I'll be back on a bike. And then obviously the mental health episode where I'd probably give myself a good shake and say, right, okay, I need to get a new hobby, and it was fishing. And yeah, it was I'd went to the local fishing shop and bought basic bits of kit, and then I was like on YouTube, because I'd not done it since I was a child, so I'd forgot how to set up the rod. So I was on YouTube trying to figure out how to set the equipment up, and then I went onto the local canal, and I didn't catch like for the entire few hours I was out there, but it kind of just, I don't know, it was like a change in me. It was like I weren't thinking about anything else, just this float in the water, and I was sat there nice and peaceful, and I always look at it, I always use the pun as saying that I was hooked from that moment. Even though I didn't catch a fish, I was the one who was hooked, and it was then kind of snowballed. It was, I want to go back out again, I want to learn more, and yeah, from there I just became a bit obsessed, wanting to go out and try new techniques, try different things. I then started volunteering with an organisation where I could then help others through their mental health struggles, and from there I then gained an angling coach, so I became a level 1 angling coach first of all, then it was a level 2 angling coach. Really threw myself into this, and then I could help these other people through this organisation. But then it came about that I was being asked by my case manager and other people, would I meet such and such a body? They're struggling, they can't really do the hobbies that they used to do, would you take them fishing? And from there, like I say, it became real recovery with Karl. I'd sit with them, we could talk about lived experience of an accident. They could be completely different situations than mine, but you could see just by sitting with them, watching them focus on this little float in the water, having quite a serious brain injury, not getting fatigued, just literally being able to just get out of the moment and just relax. And yeah, it blossomed from there, and I'm really proud of where it's got to. I've got, like I say, a lot of quite a few clients now, getting some great feedback, and yeah, I'm excited to work with more clients from similar backgrounds to myself. Or
A quick question: do you take Ashley with you?
We've never been actually out with me, but we are this summer, aren't we? We're going with the dog, because she doesn't like to be sat like that. So we've got like it's like a cabin, is it?
Yeah.
As such, with a bed inside, so she can relax if she wants to relax. She doesn't want to be out there with all the flies and the mud and.
I might be great.
I was gonna, yeah. I think you're gonna get hooked.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it'll be good. It'll be good to see. It will be good to see it kind of in action. But yeah, that's your.
See, I think it goes back to that point though, doesn't it? A great point again, what we made before about having someone to talk to, and other people might be a great network of people who don't feel comfortable with close family, close friends, just want someone independent that they can just offload to. Perfect space to do so, isn't it? And obviously, Karl, I'm assuming they become friends after, not just people that come.
Everyone needs that professional when they've been through something, and you need to talk to if you're struggling. Like you might have to speak to a psychologist, whichever it might be, because the help is there, and you need that kind of help. But having someone who actually knows how I feel is kind of. Like it helps so much on a different level, because you can say, right, okay, I know how this guy's going through, he's gotten through it. And I think that's the feedback I've got from some of the clients, is like, well, they are not as far on in my journey as they are, and they can kind of go, well, that's where I want to aim to be, and if he can do this, then so can I. It does, it helps.
I think the biggest testimonial would be from yourself in terms of what was the change in how's the change in Karl since he found the hobby and found that purpose?
Massive. Like, yeah, it's just everything. I think that is everything for you now. You know that you can go out, you can switch off, you can go out all day and everything mood, and he just loves it. And then what he can then bring from a hobby to then someone else is just, yeah, best thing ever, I think.
Because I've done it now, because obviously I still struggle with the fatigue element with fishing, and my clients said, well, so my session's only around the 1 hour to 2 hour long to manage the client's fatigue, but now I've adapted the way I can go out for the entire day, and like I say, in good weather, but I have got a shelter I can get underneath, but I take my bed chair, so I can have a bit of a chill while the fish are waiting to, because they're all set up on alarms. So I've adapted it now so I can go out longer and still have time to chill with the fatigue element.
You've definitely got a new client in me, you know that, don't you? I can't wait to come out and chill. That's the absolutely lie down for a bit. No, I think it's great. I think it's quite unique. There's not, I don't know any, you know, I'm not aware of it. And again, it's how do we create activity? You know, we really promote, you know, because families just have no idea. And this is like something I hadn't seen before. I saw it on LinkedIn, you know, and I was straight away got into saying, love what you're doing, because it's different. And this will appeal to so many people. You know, so yeah, I think it's really important that people can find and access. I'm going to call it a sport. People won't agree with it. I call it a sport. But yeah, it's really important that people find services and activities like this, because it's just such benefit, and the benefits are obvious. I
think it's the family as well, though, because it was like for you and obviously Callum, your son, it was about finding a new hobby. They'd always gone out riding a bike. That destroyed, obviously, Callum, that he couldn't understand that he couldn't have that of his dad anymore. So finding that new hobby that then you can go out with him. And again, that's other family members, you know, there might be dad and lads that have lost that dad and lad bond, and then it's a new thing that they find together. So it's you know, it's family members as well, isn't it, that can enjoy it.
Yeah. And a full day now is going out. You get to
It's
watch
great,
the full
out the
TV and
house.
everything else.
There, so I don't do it as much now, but I still get the same enjoyment with my clients catching the fish as I would do myself. So I think that's the benefit is I've fell in love with something, and I'm getting now to do it throughout the week with clients from all sorts of kind of backgrounds, and like I say, I'm loving it. So.
I always like to end this on a real positive. I think that's a huge positive. I think we should talk about you two as again referring back to this as an absolute power couple. So that's evident and that's obvious. You did get married. We should talk about that. You got that box ticked, and that goal. Again, we talk about goals all the time. That was your real incentive for you to get back to you know, obviously securing that wedding date and having a great day. I'm sure you did. Hobby in place, you know, routine in place, you know, actually your you know, new career and watch this space. I think we should all watch this space with the lived experience and everything else. I know you'll be fantastic. I think I want to just end on hope, because I think hope is so vital, and it will give our listeners real insight. But maybe from individually, but hope. How do we give hope? How do we, having been through what you two have been through, how do we sort of end on a positive message for others and try and inspire others, or try and reassure others that there is hope, and we should cling on to that?
You want me to go first? You go first. I'd say hope. I think it's going to be tough. It's not going to be, I'd say, an easy road. But I'd say you get in what you get out what you put in. I was the one who was. I came from a bit of a student background. It was more of I want to push myself to be the old me. I might have quit here. I'm a bit losing my words.
But again, I think just looking at you and seeing even when you're talking about the fishing, the passion you've got for that and the new normal. It's that is finding something else.
I think it'll get to a state. I think that's what it'll be. If they've been through a traumatic experience, through injury, I think you'll find that part of where you think, right, okay, I'm not going to be this person, but life is still worth living and I've still got a lot to give. I'm just not going to be on that path anymore. It's going to be an alternate path, but I'm going to make the most of it. And I think that's where I was. I was so determined to follow the path I was on, but my physical elements could no longer follow that path. So I had to create another path, and I'm incredibly proud now of where I'm at. And yeah, it took a lot of hard work. It took its toll on us. But being where we're at now on this, like say, podcast, talking about the lived experience, without that happening, I would not be here today. So I'd say that there are going to be dark days for people, but there's a lot of good days when you, let's say, come through something as traumatic as, let's say, a brain injury or a traumatic experience. Then yeah, just keep ploughing on. Yeah, just keep ploughing on. Don't give up.
Anything to add to that?
I think pretty much the same. Everyone has to have hope. You've got to have hope because that's the only thing that is really going to get you through it. But I just think, yeah, stick with it. There is light and things will get better. Initially you might not think it and it'll be tough, but yeah, stick with it and it will get better.
Wow. Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, really appreciate, obviously, ending on hope is so important. So thank you both for coming on today. I've really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more and definitely see you on the bank soon, which is what they say in the...
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you can join us anytime.
Will do. Huge thanks to Abilities Enabled for an outstanding episode of today's podcast. And for those that would wish to inquire with the Brain Injury Group or ask Karl any questions today, it's the usual email address, which is inquiries@braininjurygroup.co.uk, or by the usual telephone number. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Bye.